As Bastian said last time, we talked about E9, proarginine, and beets. We started with this exact same slide last time, and I wanted to start with the same slide to reiterate the idea that when you're exercising, the reason you fail is multiple systems failing. It may be one system failing, it may be multiple systems failing, but there are multiple systems in the body that lead to failure, and it's more about metabolic failure than it is actual muscle failure. So that's all I want to say about this. I don't want to go too into detail on that, but I also wanted to really reiterate the idea that performance is a cellular level type of an event. Performance is really about what happens with your whole body, with your mitochondria, with your oxygen delivery, your cardiovascular system. And we talked about that a lot last time, and that's still true, 100% true. Blood flow is critically important. That's why proarginine is super important. That's why beets are super important, is to get that blood flow and to have that oxygen delivery, to have that waste removal, and to have that delivery of those nutrients. One thing that we don't really think about as athletes that we should be thinking about a lot more is this concept of gut health, which is absolutely critically important. Gut health is super important as far as our ability to absorb nutrients. Our gut, there's a lot with gut. I'm not going to go into it too much, but gut lining, the gut barrier function is super important for preventing different types of toxins, different types of molecules getting into our system that cause chronic inflammation and chronic oxidative stress throughout our body. And that's something that becomes very important when it comes to exercise. I've done a fair bit of study on gut health, probiotics, microbiome, that type of thing. And if you actually look at athletes, you'll find they have specific microbes in their gut that help them to absorb sugar more rapidly or absorb protein more efficiently. Depending on the type of sport they have, they'll actually have somewhat sport-specific microbes in their gut. So gut is super, super important. And then our antioxidant systems, and we're going to talk a little bit more about why that's so important as well. I want you guys to start thinking about exercise as controlled biological stress. We are intentionally causing different stresses on our body during exercise. Whether we're running, whether we're lifting, no matter what we're doing, playing any sort of sport, we are causing stress on our body. That stress leads to some potential problems that we're going to talk about, but they're not necessarily bad. It's supposed to be stress. That's how we trigger adaptation in our body. That's why if I exercise today, I can do a little bit more tomorrow if I'm doing things correct. And that's a really important thing. If you're doing things correctly when it comes to exercise, you can do more the next day, not less. In a week, you can do more. In a month, you can do more. And that's something that we should be thinking about when it comes to exercise. Now, this slide is super technical looking, and I'm not going to go into all the details, but I kind of wanted you guys to get a picture of what the muscle looks like. When I'm exercising, the muscles are basically long fibers that are all bound together. There are different parts of, there's things like Z lines where the different muscle fibers are connected. Basically, you have a whole bundle of these long fibers that are all connected together. When I'm exercising, when I'm using a muscle, there's a signal that happens that causes those long strands to start to contract. And that's basically how a muscle works. It's all these long strands contracting and then relaxing. When I'm exercising, basically I'm putting stress on that contracting and relaxing system. I'm actually causing mechanical damage. I'm also creating some there's all of these little muscle fibers are bound into almost like ropes throughout the muscle, and there's multiple ropes stacked together inside of the muscle. The lining for each one of these little ropes, it's called the sarcolemma, and it starts to become extra permeable as well during exercise, and that can cause issues with calcium balance inside the muscle, which can also start to lead to some of this muscle failure and some of the adaptation that we want. But basically what's happening in the gym, we used to think about, we're causing micro trauma. We're causing small little tears in the muscle. And then that triggers inflammation, and that triggers a repair process, which leads to muscle adaptation, muscle growth, process of hypertrophy, the ability to do more, lift more, be stronger, whatever on our next endeavor in the gym. This is the other side of what's happening, not the mechanical side, but the chemical side. Again, you don't really need to know all the different things that are going on here. These are just different processes within our muscle cells, really within many cells within our body, that are creating energy for my body. The big thing that I want to think about, which we did mention last time, is that metabolic stress, the demand for energy, creates stress within my body. Much of that, because the more I'm using my mitochondria, the more I'm creating reactive oxygen species, much of that is oxidative stress within the muscle tissue, locally, even throughout the body. I mentioned earlier that under optimal conditions, these stresses are a good thing. We really want to have some level of stress. That's why we adapt. We disrupt our muscle structure. We alter cellular chemistry. We increase inflammation, which inflammation in this context is not necessarily a bad thing as long as we have pathways to resolve that inflammation, healthy inflammation resolution pathways. These different mechanisms trigger repair. They stimulate muscle adaptation. They stimulate muscle growth. That allows for us to become better at whatever we're doing. That's the reason why we train. Suboptimal conditions, which unfortunately, a lot of us have suboptimal conditions. I'm going to get into that a little bit later, but a lot of us have suboptimal conditions within our body that leads to prolonged soreness, delayed onset muscle soreness, soreness that lasts a long time, prevents us from recovering, prevents us from being able to exercise the next day in the gym. And that leads to, instead of consistent effort training, having to skip days. Eventually performance starts to decline. We can even have injury, which is kind of the ultimate endpoint of training under suboptimal conditions is injury. Another thing that I really want to point out is this idea of cortisol balance. When I am exercising, cortisol is a necessary hormone that helps my body to exercise better. It's a stress hormone. It's the fight or flight hormone. It's the hormone that when I'm under a lot of stress, whether it be psychological stress or physical stress, it starts to spike. It increases the different adrenaline molecules in my blood. It actually increases sugar into my blood. It allows my body to be able to basically run faster, run further, lift more weight. It's necessary for us to survive under stressful situations, physically stressful situations. It's part of normal adaptation. It helps fuel performance. Many people have problems with cortisol balance. They're not sleeping well. We're under stress all the time. So we're having high levels of cortisol all the time, and exercise can actually make that worse in some situations. That also leads to inadequate recovery. There's all these switches that are going on and off in our body all the time, and we want these switches to be going on and off fluidly. We want them to be working well. Cortisol balance is one of those key switches. We need cortisol. It's absolutely critical for inflammation resolution, for a bunch of different things in our body, but we don't want too much. Because too much, we're feeling like we're under stress all the time. That actually starts to have create issues with not just exercise recovery, but overall quality of life. This isn't about omega-3s. This talk isn't about omega-3s, but I had to bring up omega-3s because we just talked about this natural inflammation pathway that our body is supposed to have. And I have to spend a couple of minutes just talking about omega-3s here because omega-3s are your body's natural way of resolving inflammation. And we have omega-6, omega-3s that we're supposed to consume, and we overconsume omega-6s, we underconsume omega-3s. And basically what that ends up meaning is that we have lots of tools for starting inflammation, but not a lot of tools for resolving inflammation. That leads to us getting stuck in pro-inflammatory pathways where we're not resolving inflammation well, we don't recover as well. This is a problem particularly with athletes, but really for virtually everybody. So as an aside, if you are not taking Synergy's omega-3, you should be. Everybody should be taking an omega-3 supplement. It helps with inflammation. It's our natural way of resolving inflammation. It breaks down into metabolites called resolvins that help balance inflammation and resolve inflammation. Inflammation is a natural part of recovery. It's a natural part of exercise. It's a natural part of what we're putting our body through every day. Give your body the tools to help resolve it in a good way so that it is a healthy stimulus, not an unhealthy stimulus. So that's why we should all be taking our omega-3. One of the things that we don't think about is that really athletic performance starts in the kitchen. And this is where I really want to focus this talk on. I mentioned optimal and suboptimal conditions as far as our body for dealing with the stress of exercise. The reason most of us have suboptimal conditions is because we're just not fueling our body well. And I'm not necessarily talking about the standard American diet over here, the soda and fries and burgers. I hope not everybody's doing that. But athletes really over-index on macronutrient consumption and under-index on micronutrient consumption. There are so many athletes that are out there saying, I need to meet my protein goals. I need to meet my carb goals. And all they're doing is supplementing with protein isolates. It might have 30 grams of protein, but it literally has nothing else in it besides protein as far as micronutrients go. If you're a runner, you might recognize this kind of a carb stick. It's literally 50 grams of simple sugars in a gel. You need energy when you're running, but we're so focused on macronutrients, carbohydrates, and protein, we forget about micronutrients. And that has a major detrimental effect on our ability to recover, our ability to make the most out of our exercise, to improve because of our exercise. We might be getting our protein, which is great. Yes, we need our protein, but we need those micronutrients as well. And that's why, for me, as far as athletic performance goes, every single day I should be taking my Pro 360 greens. Again, we overfocus on macronutrients, protein and carbs, but when it comes to micronutrients, and I'm not just talking about vitamins and minerals. A lot of athletes get their multivitamin. That's great. We need more vitamins and minerals as an athlete because we're actually utilizing them. We're burning through things like magnesium. But what about phytonutrients? What about fiber? What about our gut health, nutrient absorption, stress regulation, cortisol? That's really what Performance Greens is all about. And I'm going to kind of take us through step by step each one of those things. I really want to talk about nutrient density, and I'm going to talk about that in the context of vegetables. We should be eating vegetables. If we're talking about vegetables, remember, Performance Greens is 2 servings of vegetables. And it's a lot of different variety of vegetables, which is good. Just looking at dietary changes. If an athlete has a diet where they're consuming more vegetables, in this particular study, they were looking at the Mediterranean diet and at least 2 servings of vegetables with every meal. So that's 6 servings of vegetables every day. Athletes had less inflammation, lower inflammatory markers, improved body composition, improvements in power output and muscle endurance, increased squat jump performance, improvements in VO2 max. Why is that? It is basically, in this study, it came down to the high antioxidant content of their diet because fruits and vegetables contain phytonutrients. They contain polyphenols. That high fruit and vegetable intake leads to better performance, leads to less systemic inflammation, leads to ability to be able to exercise, be able to recover, be able to exercise more efficiently. You're actually able to do more in a workout over time when you take a lot of vegetables in your diet. The recovery is so much better, and you're able to get back in the gym and train hard more frequently without having that soreness, without having the delayed onset muscle soreness, those types of things. Specifically, when we're talking about gut health, gut health has a strong impact on athletic performance. First off, if we're not consuming the right phytonutrients and the right fiber, we're leaving our microbiome unable to reproduce the correct kinds of bacterial cells. The good, healthy bacteria, they rely on those fibers and phytonutrients for food. That means we have less production of postbiotics, things like short-chain fatty acid. That means that we have worsened gut lining integrity. Our gut barrier is no longer functioning well. If we're not getting those fibers and those phytonutrients, we have increased systemic inflammation because of that gut lining, because we're getting those toxins into our system now. If we do have healthy fiber and healthy phytonutrients for our gut, that leads to improved nutrient absorption. One of the things that people don't realize when it comes to exercise is your ability to process food and extract the nutrients out of food directly impacts your ability to be able to exercise well. If I am an endurance athlete and I am doing a long distance race, or I'm playing a football match and I am asked to be exercising for 3 hours or 2.5 hours, my body doesn't store enough carbohydrate energy to be able to maintain a high level of activity during that time without adding carbohydrates into my system, eating carbohydrates, basically. That means I need to be able to absorb those carbohydrates super efficiently. That means that I have to have good gut health. It also means I need to have the right kinds of bacteria in my gut to help me to assimilate those carbohydrates and use them in my system very quickly. Also, gut health obviously has a big impact on immune resilience, and that plays a role in systemic inflammation, but it also plays a major role in being able to train without getting sick, because athletes get sick more often than your average person because we're putting demands on our system. We're stressing our system out. So if we're not taking care of ourselves, we'll end up getting sick more often. One thing about greens that I really, really want to highlight is the adaptogen blend. I mentioned cortisol. It's kind of demonized in a lot of literature right now because we talk about, high cortisol, high stress, and we're under a lot of stress in the world. If you look at the reasons why people take supplements, the number one reasons are all associated with stress, energy, and sleep. And cortisol plays a role in all three of those. When it comes to exercise, we are increasing cortisol levels. We are causing cortisol spikes. We are relying on our body's natural ability to adapt to be able to have those cortisol spikes and resolve those cortisol spikes well. Pro360, Performance Greens was built with a blend of adaptogens. That's why we have the Shazandra. That's why we have the green tea. That's why we have the choline. That's why we have these molecules that help our body respond to stressful situations so that we have improved stress resilience. We have fatigue reduction. We are able to have better quality energy. We're able to have a healthier nervous system and healthier muscle signaling. This is super, super critical because of the nutrient delivery in Pro360 Greens, because of the vegetable quantity in Pro360 Greens, because of the adaptogen blend in Pro360 Greens. It is a daily performance product for sport that if you take it every day will dramatically improve your ability to recover and will dramatically improve your performance, especially cumulative performance over time. I mentioned phytonutrients. I could have talked about phytonutrients on Pro360 Greens more because there are a lot of phytonutrients when you have a diversity of vegetables. Our Synergy Hero phytonutrient product is really Mistify. It contains the highest concentration of these phytonutrients, specific phytonutrients from different fruits, basically. There are many applications for Mistify because of the power of these specific phytonutrients. One of the main set of ingredients is a blend of red grape and Concord grape, two different kinds of grape, where we're getting things like anthocyanins, we're getting things like resveratrol, different molecules in the grapes that lead to improved vascular function, improved exercise recovery, improved ability to exercise and recover. And whether it be the berries, whether it be the grape, whether it be the pomegranate, in each case, we're getting specific phytonutrients that affect blood flow, that affect recovery. And one thing that I want to point out, when I'm exercising, I'm increasing reactive oxygen species by 2 to 3-fold in my body just because of that mitochondrial work. Just because of all of that effort that my body is putting in to create energy, I am increasing reactive oxygen species by 2 to 3-fold. Now, if I'm your average person, I'm already oxidatively stressed because I already have an unhealthy gut. I'm not eating a very healthy diet. I'm not getting enough fruits and vegetables in my diet. I'm not getting enough phytonutrient diversity. So each time I exercise, I'm putting that extra stress on my body. It's no wonder I feel sore. It's no wonder I can't recover. People think, as I age, it takes longer to recover, which is true. But most of the reason why that's true is because we're not treating our bodies well over the years. Give your bodies the tools that they need to recover well from exercise, to blunt that excess oxidative stress. With Mistify, Mistify is a really good, it's a great support product for pro-arginine in many, many ways. There's a reason V3 is kind of the original pack that was all over Europe. And it's because if I take my Mistify with my pro-arginine, I'm giving my body all of these extra tools to enhance endothelial function and to support blood flow. So just that pair works really, really well together. I didn't even talk about the green tea. Green tea is another component of Mistify, containing catechins. Again, the same types of effects that I'm getting. There's specific differences between the different kinds of polyphenols in Mistify. It's not just all generic antioxidant effect. It's endothelial support, mitochondrial signaling, fat oxidation, cellular stress response, blood flow support, recovery support, vascular function, nitric oxide support, circulation efficiency, exercise recovery, capillary integrity. And it depends on the types of micronutrients that are causing these different benefits from Mistify. That's why it has this blend of ingredients. And it is such a powerful recovery drink. In this industry, there's a lot of people that come and talk to us about different ingredients. All the time are coming and talking about their new sport performance ingredient. And it turns out it's kind of a generic antioxidant effect. They're saying, look, we have an ingredient that has antioxidants in it, and that improves your sport performance, which is true. Antioxidants in general improve sport performance, because they improve your recovery, they quench those reactive oxygen species, they allow your mitochondria to work more efficiently. But with Mistify, you're actually getting an intentional blend of phytonutrients that do all of these different things together, and it really makes it a superior recovery product. It's one that if you're doing a long workout, you can take it before a workout, you can take it during a workout, and then you can take it after the workout, and you will feel better the next day. You will literally feel better the next day if you take Mistify versus if you do not take Mistify. It is an overall health drink, but it is a sport performance drink. Honestly, it could have been designed for that more than anything else. PhytoLife. PhytoLife is a product that basically allows your body to work better. When I'm exercising, again, I'm increasing my oxygen consumption. I'm increasing metabolic byproducts. I'm increasing oxidative stress. My body is having to deal with more and more and more stuff. PhytoLife is a product that really helps your body overcome the challenges that we're throwing at it. It helps neutralize harmful byproducts. It binds to those different types of toxins, the different harmful byproducts. One thing that people don't think about PhytoLife, sodium copper-chlorophyllin is a very powerful antioxidant in its own right, but it's more than that. It's that binding of different toxins. It's that helping the liver function better to reduce metabolic waste. You're making your engine work better when you take PhytoLife, so that as you're putting fuel through this car, through your body, you're able to keep your systems clean, keep your systems running well. That's really what PhytoLife is about. PhytoLife helps your body, because of its antioxidant potential, maintain normal antioxidant defense, protects cells from oxidative strain, supports normal liver function under stress, and that's key because your liver is your main detoxification organ, and it helps maintain just healthier internal environment during heavy training. Or honestly, if you're not taking PhytoLife, hopefully if you're not taking PhytoLife, this is your first call and you're brand new to Synergy. Because if you've been around Synergy for a while and you're not taking PhytoLife, this is the product that makes sure that you're getting toxins out of your body so that you can run efficiently. The bottom line is, whether it's sport performance or daily life, you need to have your body running efficiently. Now, that's the end of the slides, but we want to talk a little bit more about a couple of products, and we have a couple more minutes to talk about a few other things. So we're going to talk about Biome Shake and Smart Meal briefly, and we're going to talk about Flex briefly. I mentioned, one of the things that I mentioned when I was talking about these different products, I mentioned that we over-index on simple macronutrients. And this is actually a really big deal. This is a problem because we're not, in general, getting the nutrition that we need for our bodies to function at an optimal level. We might be getting enough protein, but we're not getting enough nutrition. I absolutely love Biome Shake, which is it's a microbiome boosting shake, but it's delivering all sorts of low-level phytonutrients because of the different plants that are in Biome Shake. They're designed to improve microbiome health, but they're also, at the same time, delivering all of these different phytonutrients. So if I'm taking my protein in the form of Biome Shake, as opposed to a simple whey isolate, I'm getting so much more than protein. I'm getting real nutrition, which is phytonutrient nutrition, which is really, really critical. Smart Meal. This is where I'm getting my micronutrients. This is where I'm getting a little bit more calories. And honestly, for me, Smart Meal is like the perfect post-workout. I don't take it before my workout. I take it after my workout because I need that protein for recovery, but I also need those carbohydrates and those micronutrients for recovery. We have a set of proteins that are much, much more than simple protein that are delivering real phytonutrient nutrition, real micronutrient nutrition. And then the last thing I'm going to talk about briefly is Flex. And Flex is one of those products that I personally like, but it really is an athlete product. It's an athlete product first in many, many ways. It's about building blocks for different cartilage and hyaluronic acid in your joints that help cushion your joints, that help prevent your joints from having excess inflammation, excess pain. It's also a lot of carbohydrates, which is really, really cool in the context of both the glucosamine, chondroitin, and MSM, because it helps with the availability of those ingredients. It helps them get into our system and work better. And in the context of an athlete, this is a product I'm going to take either during my workout or after my workout, because those carbohydrates are going to help me during my workout and they're going to help me recover after my workout. So if I'm thinking about how to exercise from a synergy perspective, I'm thinking my pre-workout is always going to be Pro-arginine. It's always going to be the Pro 360 Beats. If I'm exercising in the morning, I'm going to throw in E9. That's my pre-workout. Then every single day, I am taking my Pro 360 Greens and I'm taking my Mistify. And the reason I'm taking my Pro 360 Greens and my Mistify is because that is the phytonutrient nutrition. That's those whole food vegetables. That's the whole food fruits, really, the high potency antioxidant berries that are giving me all the different things that I need in my body to recover. And it doesn't matter as much what time I take those. Although I will say for me, if I take my greens like an hour before my workout, I feel like I recover better from that workout because of the cortisol blunting that I get from those adaptogens. I don't want to take it too close to my workout because of those fibers and whatnot that actually slow down the absorption and digestion. I don't want to be actively working to digest things. But if I take my greens about an hour before my workout, I take my Synergy pre-workout, my Pro-arginine, my Beats, and my E9 15 minutes before my workout. Then if I'm having a long workout, I actually do take Flex because I have joint pain. I've had my knees replaced. I've had multiple shoulder surgeries. My body is struggling to keep itself together after 50 years of basically putting it through the ringer with athletic events, lifting, things like that. It helps me to recover. It helps me to feel better. I take that during my workout, and that helps me to have fuel during my workout and helps me avoid the joint pain and the struggle during my workout. When my workout is done, I take Smart Meal. And every single day, I'm taking Mistify at some point, and I'm taking Biome Shake at some point. Between those products, I'm getting the vegetables that I need. I'm getting the phytonutrients that I need. I'm getting that blood flow enhancement, that pre-workout. I'm getting a significant amount of my daily protein intake with just that one serving of Biome Shake and one serving of Smart Meal. I'm enhancing recovery. I'm enhancing my gut health so that my gut is better able to deliver nutrients to my body. I am becoming a better athlete, but at the same time, a healthier individual. And that's the reason why my athletic performance improves over time when I'm taking these products. I think we have a little bit of time for questions. Bosch, have you found any questions?
What's the difference between, let's say, Pro 360 Performance Greens and competitors?
Yes, and honestly, it's pretty easy on this one. It's easy on all the products, but it's especially easy on this one. To me, the biggest difference is you're getting the 2 servings of vegetables. It's whole vegetables in this product. It's not just called green because it's the color green. It's not just a light phytonutrient blend. It's not just spirulina. It is a whole vegetable product that's giving us 2 servings of vegetables. It does contain spirulina, which is a super nutrient dense superfood algae. It does contain a phytonutrient blend, things like bilberry, quercetin. I didn't even mention quercetin, which is one of the if you're an athlete, you should already know probably that quercetin is one of those phytonutrients that significantly improves athletic performance. I didn't even bring that up, but that's one of the phytonutrients that we boosted in there. There's other quercetin in the actual vegetables in it, but we boosted it because we know it's so valuable. You can go into a store and you can find a greens powder that's similarly priced, in all honesty, to Pro 360 greens, and it's going to be one thing at the most. It might have a fairy dusting of other ingredients, but it doesn't have a clinically validated amount of adaptogens that are actually going to significantly reduce stress. It doesn't have 2 servings of vegetables. It doesn't have the phytonutrient blend. It doesn't have the 3 grams of fiber. The reason we have all that fiber isn't because we're throwing in inulin or something like that. It's because we have whole food in this product. So yes, it is easy to talk about Pro 360 greens and talk about why it's different and better than what's out there. Mistify is a blend, an intentional blend of phytonutrients that complement each other. It's not just one single high-powered antioxidant. And I've actually had questions. Why is Mistify better than astaxanthin? Astaxanthin is a high-powered antioxidant that is pretty popular on the market right now, and I love astaxanthin. It's a great fat-soluble antioxidant. It does some good things, and gram for gram, it is super, super powerful as far as ORAC goes, but you need that blend of different phytonutrients. You need phytonutrients. They act as antioxidants in the body, but they also act as cofactors. They act as metabolic regulators. They do things in the body to help the body perform at the optimal level. And the biggest problem that we have is that we underconsume not just phytonutrients, but we don't get the diversity of phytonutrients that we need. So our body's missing these pieces that it should be able to use for optimal health. Yeah, we can function. We're not going to necessarily fall apart with major disease like we would if we didn't get enough vitamin C or something like that, but we don't function at an optimal level. And especially for athletes, that's critically important. But as far as an antioxidant drink, which Mistify is an antioxidant drink, it's so much more than that. It is a diverse phytonutrient drink from whole food berries that's really, this is what you should be eating. All you're doing, supplements are to supplement the things that we can't get enough of. We don't go and get a few pounds of berries every day, 13, 14 different varieties of berries every day and eat them. We just don't. It's not feasible. You can't go. I mean, I might stop on a roadside stand and get a mandarin orange, I might do that. And that's great. That's healthy for me. But I'm still not getting the variety that I get in Mistify.
Yeah, like you tried those from Croatia.
Yes, yes.
So the similar thing maybe for PhytoLife, why it's better?
PhytoLife there are a lot of companies that have chlorophyll products that are on the market. The biggest single difference between PhytoLife and other chlorophyll products is we actually put enough in there to have a clinically validated dose. I have worked for other companies that have chlorophyll products, and I've been a believer in chlorophyll as a detoxifying agent, as a necessary part of your routine for more than 10 years, or even before I came to Synergy. But the general instruction for chlorophyll was put it in until it looks green enough. Take your PhytoLife and just mix it in until it looks green. That's not the right way to do it. The right way to do it is with an actual dose that has been clinically demonstrated to be able to remove toxins from your body. And that's the way we do it at Synergy.
Oh, David, what is best to take when your muscles sore after a hard workout?
I would say, David, that if you take Mistify on a regular basis, your muscles are much less likely to get sore after a hard workout. And if they start to get sore, then that will help you recover faster. Another thing that is really, really critical that we mentioned briefly is omega-3. Take omega-3 as well. That will help resolve that inflammation, and that will help get your body back to able to compete and able to continue to train quickly.
Okay. What about Body Prime?
Body Prime, I have some in the context of workout. The great thing is that you are getting magnesium. The challenging thing is that the magnesium is specifically designed to help flush your body out. So you are getting magnesium, which is absolutely critical for function, but I wouldn't take it around my workouts because I'm going to end up having to go to the bathroom. And so, yeah, if you want to take it at night. So yeah, I drink a lot of Synergy products. I am a big consumer of products. I am way healthier now than I was when I started working here. And this has been probably for my health the best 5 years of my life. I probably drink 2 gallons a day of water mixed with Synergy products. So I'm still drinking 2 gallons of water every day, and I'm also getting those Synergy products. So that's great. I don't, as long as you're drinking enough water, mixing it with products does not cause any less, it doesn't make you absorb the water less well. In fact, sometimes it makes you absorb the water better. So you're actually hydrating better because of the different salts and other things that are in the products.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all.